on my
Oh,
cell
no worries,
phone.
Tim, I got you.
Thanks.
No worries. Okay, can everybody see my screen with the EHAC site visitor and self-study reviewer training? All right, awesome. Thank you for being here and taking the time out to do this today. We'd just like to go over, for the newer people to go over it for the first time, and for the veterans to just have a reminder session for everyone, so we're all on the same page. So just moving on, we're going to go through an introduction and some important points that Tanya wanted to reiterate because she can't be here today. She had an unexpected meeting. And then we'll review the volunteer assignments, review the log on to the member section of the website, do the accreditation timeline, how the coordination and communication will work, conducting the self-studies and site visits. And then Jason and Tim will review the undergraduate criteria, and Kai will take a look at the graduate criteria itself, the kind of the meat of the whole thing. And please, if you have questions, you can ask during the session, that's fine. And this is being recorded, so it'll be available for later. So I've already sent these out to you, the list of the self-study reviewers and their assignments. So this is just here if you needed to refer back to. And then the site visitors are here as well. So just logging onto the member page, I've given you all the instructions here. This is step by step. If it doesn't work for you for some reason, please email me as soon as you can, and I will set up a password for you again. It just takes me to resetting the password and sending that to you, and you can and then we'll get you in that way if this doesn't work for you. So please do that as soon as you have a chance, so you'll have access to the documents. And again, all of this information is located at this under the members section. So you have to press, when you go to the website, you just press members, click on that, and that takes you to that page. Self-study due dates, they've all been turned in at this point. I'm waiting on one piece of information for University of Georgia, but everything else is online that's ready for you to review right now on the website. The review period is through the 31st. The self-study reports are due December 31st. And then for the site visitor due dates, we're hoping that we can get site visits arranged by the 31st. It's not always possible, but that's our goal. And those can take place between January 10th and April 20th of 2024. And again, the review reports, if I get them by the 31st, will be posted by the 5th of January. And then May 31st will be the due date for the site reports and the PowerPoints. And just as far as what happens after the site visit, the lead site visitor will draft a report that's submitted at least 2 weeks, at a minimum of 2 weeks after the site visits. And then the program director has 2 weeks to respond to the draft. And pardon me. And then the site visit lead will submit the final report to me after 2 weeks after receiving the comments. And again, the site visitors will need to, or at least one of the representatives will need to attend the annual meeting in Pittsburgh in July. Just a note about that, if we do have stipulation in our policy to allow for program directors to represent their schools virtually, if there are no significant challenges to the self-study or the site visit report, if everything is like in line with their program and that kind of thing, we can give them that option. And I will communicate with the site visit leads on that issue, making that determination. So the site visit lead is for the site visits is the communication hub for the team, and they will communicate with the program director, and please CC me on all of that. So they'll arrange the date, hopefully by December 31st, and then coordinate the writing of the draft site visit report. they'll submit again. This is the same timeline I just went over, 2 weeks, and then no later than May 31st for the final report and the PowerPoint. And again, please CC me on all the communications. Just keep me in the loop. Tanya wanted to reiterate this point that all of these self-studies have been prepared based on our past, our current undergraduate requirements and our current graduate guidelines. So we have a new version that we've approved, and that will go into effect for the undergraduate requirements January 1st of 2024. But right now, these self-studies are based on our the requirements that were adopted in 2016 and revised more recently, and the same with the graduate guidelines. Just wanted to make that very clear, because I know that the revisions are fresh in our heads. Okay, for the self-study reviews, like I said, it's designed to provide a thorough and detailed look at the programs undergoing accreditation or reaccreditation, and they serve as detailed guides to the site visitors. So this is a key document to help the site visitors be aware of what questions that need to be asked at the site visit. So identifying any program weaknesses that need to be addressed, using the EHAC self-study and curriculum checklist for reviewers for the graduate and undergraduate programs. Be aware that there are two tabs on the spreadsheet that each need to be filled out for the self-studies. Identifying program information provided in the self-studies that needs to be evaluated, confirmed, or validated during the site visit, and providing questions that arise from reviewing the self-study, such as what specific questions should site visitors ask about concerns that you might have, what requirements need further information or explanation, and just anything that comes up that seems important for the site visitors to know. Of course, the site visitors are going to be reviewing the self-studies as well, but this is another step in that process that helps, having several different eyes look at it. Yeah, there's something else I want to say. Okay. So again, providing a thorough, objective third-party review of the self-study, and ensuring high emphasis on academic standards by programs and making sure that the programs align in all areas of the requirements and the guidelines. And then validating the course details to confirm that they meet the requirements, guidelines, such as clear learning objectives. And again, please flag questionable claims about program offerings. We're looking for evidence in all of these, for evidence that the programs are meeting all the requirements and the guidelines. And identify incomplete reports. And please, if you see anything that needs to be added, let me know as soon as possible. And then ask you to have a look at the university's college catalog online in order to ensure that what the program says they're doing is what they're actually doing. So audit the catalog. And I also wanted to at this point say that some of the self-studies are combined, the undergraduate and the graduate programs are combined, and there are self-study reviewers for each. So you don't have to do both, you're just assigned the undergraduate portion or the graduate portion.
Leslie?
Yeah, I have a question. Oh.
Yep.
Sorry, Tim.
Go ahead.
So can you go back to the slide before, please, Leslie? Okay, so identify incomplete reports, especially if what's missing is significant, like course required do not meet guidelines or requirements. Like, to what degree we let you know, to what degree is that something that we place in our, the table, right? Does not meet, and then we write about it. I'm a little confused as to what you mean by this sentence.
Leslie, I'll take that one.
Yep.
Rania, anything. Just if I know you, and if you see that you can't draw a line between the university catalog through the program's syllabi to an EHAC requirement, then we need to flag that. And feel free to send an email directly to the chairs of the undergraduate or graduate committees. That way it's on everyone's radar. In my opinion,
Right.
the people that do the self-study reviews are in absolutely most important part of this whole thing, because they're flagging things that there's lacking of proof in the documentation, so the self-study team can find that proof. And the more detailed the review is, the more detailed the site visit can be, and we can reach out to the program in advance of the site visit, and
Okay.
hopefully they actually have the stuff, and you and I and Jason aren't waiting in an anti-room for somebody to photocopy 5,000 pages that they should have given to us beforehand.
Got it. I get the idea now. So if it's something we're going to need evidence of, don't just write it in a report, but flag it and send you a message about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. All right. So support documents for self-study reviewers. This is just the documentation that is on the website. I've sent these things to you as well, but everything is on the website. It's linked in this PowerPoint that I also sent you. You just have to press Control and then click on it. So undergraduate requirements that you'll be using are here. The undergraduate self-study curriculum is here, and I just wanted to supposedly it's linked here. Why is it not doing that? Oh, I see. So again, I wanted just to show you for both the self-study and the self-study reviewers, this is the worksheet, and there's a self-study checklist, and there'll be a site visit checklist. I'm sorry, this is the self-study checklist, and then there's a curriculum checklist as well. And both of these need to be filled out when you turn in your report. And then same thing for the graduate guidelines for EHAC accreditation. They also have 2 tabs, or that also has 2 tabs. And then the graduate and then the self-study review summary example is here. And this is written in a that everything is at the bottom here. The above areas need further exploration, but don't represent areas of weakness. This is just an example. If there are areas of weakness, then please write that there are those. This is just an example of a positive or a one that's okay. So again,
Leslie,
yeah,
Leslie, who's writing
Yep.
that this is Michelle, who's writing that self-study review? Is that something?
Each self-study reviewer will write the or their own review.
So regardless of whether we're the lead or the site visitor, we're still writing a review letter.
Well,
If you're a self-study reviewer, this is the review summary that you will write. This is
Okay.
just for the self-study reviewers right now. So you're
Gotcha.
just doing self-study review.
Okay.
those are 2 different documents. The self-study reviewer sends a letter in basically to Leslie that says, this is what we find in our review. The site visitor does the lead site visitor writes the site visit report.
Right. So again, main self-study reviewer task, complete your review report, which is the what we just talked about. The self-study and curriculum checklist again includes the two tabs, and those are the primary things that need to be done by December 31st. Okay, so conducting the site visits. So the focus for the visitors should be number 1, we have a site visit protocol and reporting explanation that is pretty thorough. And if you can have a look at that, it's would be really helpful. And I'm bringing that up right now. So It's really hard to do this. Okay. So this is what that looks like. And it goes through all the steps. So all of these protocol things, and then preparing the report, which is specifically for the lead visit, the site visit lead. That you have the introduction, the composition of the team, the role of the site visit leader, you know, scheduling the site visit, being the communication interface between the team and the program director, preparation for the site visit, and it goes into detail about what you should have a look at. And again, if you have any, you can review this document. If you have any questions, you can ask me or Tim or Kai or Jason. But again, this is just outlining all the things that are in the requirements and the guidelines. And this is just how to conduct yourself, you know, be gracious guest, cooperate as a team, be attentive, be prepared, carry your share of the responsibilities and questioning. A lot of the times, the site visit leads will break up the responsibilities between the academic and themselves, and then the practitioner for who can pay lots more attention to one area. Tim can probably talk a little bit more about that. Being active to participate in the discussion and the decision-making process. Don't be combative, don't be effusive in your praise. Avoid discussion with which questions the council's criteria, if at all possible. These have been developed. You know, we've been working on this for a while, and we can have those discussions within the council. Avoid excessive comparison with your own school or program. A lot of times we like to talk about things that we were really excited about, and that's great, but it's just try to keep to the actual site visit process, and unless that becomes very helpful. In some cases that is very helpful. It was last year. And be as helpful as possible. This is, site visitors sometimes face the dilemma of being placed in the role of consultant as well as evaluator. The council believes that the entire accreditation process should be helpful to the school, including the site visit, but avoid conflict with the major objectives of verifying the self-study document and assessing compliance. So just, you know, be professional. And again, I'm not going to go all through all these, but please have a look at this document. There's this is a brief itinerary. This is a very brief itinerary I have included in the documents that are available, very detailed itineraries that are linked to both the undergraduate requirement document and to the graduate guidelines, so that the we can provide it to the program director and they know exactly what questions they are going to be asked, and so it's much more detailed for over the 2 days. And there's post-site visit, and then you've already signed a declaration of no conflict of interest. And then the lead is responsible for coordinating the site visit report preparation. They'll do a draft for the site visit team to review, and then put that draft together for the program director. And then they'll get comments from the program director and incorporate those into the final document. And there's a template for that. And there's templates for all the things that you need to turn in. And again, this is how you can structure your report here and see. So we tried to lay things out for you and make it as easy as possible. Okay. So, like I said, whoops, there's a little typo. It's important to adequately prepare. The self-study reviewers are going to do their job to help you be prepared, and then you need to review the self-study report and the reviews themselves, familiarize yourself with the university, the program, the faculty, advisory board enrollment, and especially any of the areas that are flagged by the self-study reviewers. So again, Site visit leads will communicate with fellow visitors, review the process, answer questions, and provide guidance in preparing for and conducting the site visit if you have any. Prepare a concise and thorough report using a template and a PowerPoint. The site visit lead will prepare the PowerPoint as well for the annual meeting. And again, please remember that must not include the site visit team's recommendation. That's to be revealed at the meeting itself. So just to review, the main task of the site visitors is to conduct the site visit, prepare the site visit report in PowerPoint, and present the summary PowerPoint to the council at the annual meeting. And then an accreditation, reaccreditation recommendation will be made following the PowerPoint presentation. All these documents are linked here. So I ran over the site visit protocol and reporting explanation. There's the site visitors introduction process letter that I've sent. I sent to you to the site visit leads already. And the scheduling letter I also sent, and I've asked that the site visit leads get those out to the program directors as soon as possible, because we really would like to schedule those before the end of the month, if at all possible. There's again, this is the detailed site visit agendas for the undergraduate, graduate, and then there's a combined undergraduate and graduate one as well. The site visit report example, a template, and there's an example of the report, of a actual report. There's a PowerPoint template. There's the expense report that you'll use for your expenses, and the site visit peer review template. That's an online form now that I will send out to you later. As far as the travel expenses we're thrilled if the programs can make a lot of those arrangements themselves. But if not, you send me any receipts that you have, and then I will invoice the college from EHAC, and that's how that works. So you give me the receipts, and then I invoice the program. Unless they can take care of like the hotel expenses or the flight expenses or something like that themselves. Okay, that was a lot. So are there any questions about the process itself?
Hey, Leslie, it's Sabrina.
Hi, Dorina.
On the travel, are you saying that the colleges usually book travel for us to go, or are we responsible for booking the travel and then being reimbursed?
Ideally, the colleges book the travel in your hotel, but sometimes that doesn't happen. And if that doesn't happen, then you have to do it yourself.
Okay.
Leslie,
Yep, Tim.
just to further on that answer, some universities, in order to book that travel for us, they want an awful lot of information from us.
Right.
They want our social security number. They want, driver's license, so on and so forth. And they want to treat us as a contractor. And then there's possibility of some tax liability, that type of thing. So if you get into a university that's set up that way, I recommend that you make your own travel. Now, most of the times it's quite easy for them to make the hotels, because they have, hotels that they have corporate agreements with, and then they'll take care of the hotel, and you can just bill your meal, no alcohol, but you can bill your meal directly to the hotel room. But it's really on a case-by-case basis for all of the above. But as your lead site visitor should be asking those questions when they make the initial email to that university.
Great. Anybody else?
Hopefully, this is Mari. I just had a quick question. How long are these site visits usually?
About 2 days, or a day and a half, or 2 days.
Thank you.
They can go longer if you're doing two programs, you know, a graduate and an undergraduate, but typically even with undergraduate and graduate combined, it's 2 days, boots on the ground. You arrive the night before and then you leave after 5 o'clock the second day. May even be spending the night that next day in order to make travel. That is one thing I'd like to bring up. We want to make sure that the site visitors, all of them can stay for the entire time. So let's make sure that when we're booking our travel, we don't leave halfway through the second day or arrive halfway through the first day. If that's going to happen, and because of something that you have to take care of, please let Leslie know in advance. And it might be that we have to switch who's doing the site visits.
Yes, thank you, Tim. That's very important.
Now, as an addition to that, there are times where flights are booked so that people do leave after the meeting, but because there's a blizzard rolling in or other massively nasty weather, that people have tried to get out early and maybe got stuck in some unknown location. But we try to make sure that we're there for the entire visit.
Okay, great. Well then, Tim and Jason, I'll turn it over to you all to really drill down into the criteria.
Mari,
Okay.
hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't see for some reason. Go ahead, Mari.
Oh, I already asked my question. Sorry, I didn't lower my hand.
Okay.
Okay. So undergraduate requirements. It really revolves an awful lot around table 2. And do they have proof that what they're teaching, the classes, what they're teaching in the class and the class itself meets the requirements for table 2? We've got real good write-ups in our requirements on what the interpretation is of a credit hour and total number of credits, that type of thing. You can see that highlighted here on this slide. But biological sciences, microbiology with lab, Gen Chem with lab, OChem with lab. On the OChem, we do see a lot of OChems that are a combination of like a OChem and biochem, an introduction to OChem and biochem, that type of thing. And that's fine. You need at least 3 semester hours combined with that. Physics, again, at least 3, and then additional natural science courses to meet that total requirement. But I want to remind everyone that the syllabus is the contract between the student and the university for what the learning outcomes are supposed to be. I've actually been on site visits many years ago where there was no syllabi. And I kept on asking, and I was not the lead on this one. This was one of my first ones. And finally, I looked at the end of the table to where a very pompous individual was, because everyone else around the table kept on looking at this pompous individual. And I said, "Where's the syllabi?" And this pompous individual said, "I don't need a syllabi. I know what I'm teaching." And I said, "Well, but the students need to know what you're supposed to be teaching, and the program needs to know what you're teaching, and we need to know." Needless to say that they got put on probation on that one. So we need to make sure that those things all line up. Next slide, Leslie. Here's the interpretation on those foundational courses. So please make sure you take a look at that. Next. So on communication, You know, as the highlight says, it's the responsibility of the program to demonstrate to the students. You know, so many of that the students have acquired these skills. Most every program we see has a couple of communication, both oral and written, whether it's technical communication, writing for the sciences, argumentation and debate, just, you know, general communication. But we see that they've got those, you know, 3 competencies and then what the interpretation could be. Now, it could be that they didn't take any of these as a course, but they've got a couple of EHAC courses, and I'll use EHAC as a broad term, you know, a course that they're using to meet the requirements that's extensive writing. And they've got portfolios and those types of things. That makes it a little bit harder to verify that the students have those competencies, but they can be met that way. They don't have to have a writing class or a public speaking class. Most universities will have that. Most programs will have that. Also, I always have to remind myself, especially when I'm looking at table 2, they can only put in table 2 or foundation courses or any place else. We can only count, they can only count those courses that are required in the program. So that's why we always have to go back to the college catalog and take a look. And college catalog says they have to take these 27 classes. Those are the only 27 classes that, you know, the program can use to meet these requirements. They can't say, well, here they can use these courses. Well, they're all electives. We don't know if they're going to take any of them, let alone specific ones. And a lot of the programs that we evaluate have many electives. That's fine. You just can't use those electives to meet the requirement. With that said, you will see sometimes where a program might mention biology 102 or biology 2 or 202. Well, as long as they provide both syllabi and it's part of the college catalog that the students can take one or the other, and we evaluate and say either one of these meet the biological sciences requirements, then they can do that. But they can't say, you know, here's 12 classes, choose 2 of them. Okay, next slide. Of course, mathematics, we suggest calc, but they don't have to. Pre-calc as a minimum. General education, again, it's, you know, satisfy the requirements of the university. And then, of course, optional electives we've already talked about. One of the things that the site visitors have to do is when they send out that initial letter, we want to make sure that the program is ready and has ready for us at least one set of transcripts for every year since their last accreditation. So 6 years with the transcripts, at least one person from every graduating class, preferably 2, with all the personal information redacted. We don't want them to hand us a student's file because that'll have a lot of things that are not redacted. We want a copy of the transcripts that have that information redacted. Hopefully they get them directly from the registrar's office. And then what we do is we look to see if they're supposed to be taking biology 102 or 202. Did the student take one of the other? If they didn't, if they took some other biology or no biology, we need an explanation. And that should be something that was a letter of substitution that the department chair ran up the chain to the registrar's office and the registrar approved it. But without that paperwork chain, then it's a no-go. Next, please. So here's the core environmental health knowledge areas, the 3 methodology classes, EPI-STATS and TOX. And of course, there's the interpretation below that. And again, as I'd mentioned, you see here in the red that this is required, non-elective. Let's see. As you see there in the bottom under the interpretation, EHAC may allow the combination of EPI and STATS methods into a single course offering so long as the credit load equals 1.3 or greater credits of the program's standalone single core course. Oh, I saw that there was a chat question. Let me open that up. It'll take me a second because I'm on a cell phone.
I can do it.
I got it. I got it.
Okay.
How do we assess IT competence when courses just assume students have that competency and hence it doesn't tend to be in either syllabi or required course in the program of study? That's a good one. If you don't see that, then ask. And you can ask and you can take notes on what the response is if you're a site visitor, or in some cases, we flag that in our draft report, and then we've gotten a written explanation from the program as to why we don't see a computer course or something else that demonstrates what that they've met like an IT competence. Okay, next slide.
Tim?
Yeah.
As you go, one thing that trips me is, well, the page before, which is 1.3 times or greater credits. And then how do we, like, if you have a quick formula for semester to quarter, I probably can figure it out, but if you have a quick answer, I'll
It's
take it.
actually in there. The quarter to semester. Go back another slide, Leslie. Another one, I think it is.
It was just the, oh,
Oh, there it is. Oh,
it was,
yeah, right there it is.
oh, here it is, here it is.
Yep, right there.
Semester, okay, great. Equals times 1.5.
Equals quarter hours. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I needed that. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You ready?
Mhm.
Yep. Next. And so cross-cutting areas, we see these listed here. All graduates shall have a basic understanding of the development, operation, management, environmental health programs. The understanding shall include analysis and reduction of environmental risk, environmental health management, administrative law. And of course, those, a knowledge, and Leslie, is that on the next slide, our definition of how much? Yeah, environmental health technical areas. So
Well, that's what,
Yep,
what
right,
you're getting
right
at.
there. Yeah, right here is fine.
Okay.
They don't have to have a course in, environmental health management. It doesn't have to be titled that, but they could have management in 3 other courses, and that they say in table 2 for environmental health management, this class, 10% of it, this class, 15%, this class, 20%. And then, of course, you're going to look at those syllabi and see, do they actually talk about environmental health management? And most importantly, is there evidence that they're being assessed on environmental health management?
Mhm.
Next, Leslie. So these are the technical areas. They must have environmental health science program shall be able to demonstrate competency across the breadth of environmental health. Practically, this means that they have been exposed to the broad areas of environmental health, which are highlighted in yellow, of the major programs and activities conducted by EH organizations. Students shall have been exposed to the foundational principles of environmental health. The 6 starred topic areas also are highlighted for ease of seeing, and most of the following topics in their program of study. In-depth study shall have been received in at least 4 of the topic areas listed below. So of this list that you see, from air quality to zoonotic, those areas that are highlighted in yellow, the students shall be exposed to the foundational principles of each of those. So exposed, you know, a week or two's worth of classes at least. They have to have in-depth in at least 4 of those between air quality and zoonotic, and should be hearing something on at least half of what's in there. And that way, it gives programs the latitude to focus on what's most important for their students. You know, here in the Midwest, we don't hammer a whole lot on air quality. I mean, we meet the requirements, but we just don't have air quality problems. In fact, here at the University of Findlay, our faculty have to manufacture their own pollution in order to be able to use instruments and show pollution. You know, we're going out to the parking lot and firing up somebody's diesel pickup truck and sticking a probe in the muffler of the pickup truck because we don't have air pollution. Whereas if we were teaching in Gary, Indiana, it would be different.
I was gonna say, Tim, we can create a thing where we bottle up or fill out Kevlar bags, you know, with pollution from LA and ship them to you guys on a regular basis.
No, no, no. If I wanted LA
Labs and
pollution,
your
I would live in
students.
LA.
Just for your students.
Yeah, exactly. So any questions on this technical area slide?
And just for clarity, and the 4 in-depth areas could be not. Wait, I just got.
They could include the starred areas.
Correct.
They could be but they could include the non-star areas too.
Right.
Correct.
Like
Correct.
it could be a program that's strong on radiation health, and I think we bumped into one.
Correct.
Like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like our program is very strong in occupational health and safety. It's very strong in all hazards preparedness. Very strong in some of the other areas. And so that way each program can make it work for their constituents.
Thank you. Clarification.
Next, Leslie.
You went through that, I think.
Yep, there's the interpretation. Next. So environmental health practice, internships. Number 1, a minimum of 180 clock hours. Number 2, it really should be in the field of environmental health. Now, could it be in safety? Could it be in radiation? Any of those other areas that were the technical areas? Yes. But we don't want is students doing internships in the program working in their computer lab. We don't want them just washing glassware in somebody's research lab. Now, if they're actually doing the research, collecting data, even if it's in a lab, it's not out in the field, that's okay, but we need proof. And that proof is going to be that student's end of internship write-up. Hopefully, because it is a class for credit, every program for that internship that the student's taking for credit requires the student to write a report on their internship or field experience or whatever it wants to be called. But we really want them as much as possible to get boots on the ground environmental health training. Next slide, please. Oh, and this is an example of a completed table 2. Notice how on across the top you have EHAC accreditation criteria. You have course designation, you have course name, credit hours, and then percent of the course that goes towards the EHAC requirements, and then who is the instructor. So here for like the biology and the chemistry, that's going to be 100%. Or, you know, you've got on this one, they've got 2 different, looks like principles of chemistry lab. It's hard to see on my cell phone. Next slide, please.
This is just
Yeah.
the checklist to be completed by the self-study reviewers.
Oh, okay. Showing that something meets or does not meet. It's really helpful that in your comments, you write any comment includes a page number. So if you found something that you have a question about, you put a page number down. Now, I failed to bring up earlier, I want to remind all the site visit team that you also have to read the self-study. You know, the self-study reviewers are the ones who are going to go through it with a fine-tooth comb, but the site visitors also need to read it. It'll give you a real good flavor for the program. I have learned over the years that poorly written self-studies are a pretty good example of programs that don't really think EHAC's that important. And if they don't think it's that important, they're not going to follow the requirements, and they should not be accredited. Next slide.
This is the curriculum checklist.
Yep. And that also, it's good to have page numbers in.
So just to say, so for self-study reviewers, you have this curriculum checklist that outlines each requirement. So it's just laid out for you to make sure it's there or not in the comment.
So Mari has a question. Can a microbiology class meet the microbiology class and lab requirement and zoonotic and vector-borne disease emphasis if the latter is a component of the MB class? I don't see why not. We have classes lots of times that meet more than one requirement. You know, a lot of times programs will have a introductory to environmental health or something similar that's very, very broad. You know, a 16-week class, you've got 10 different major topics. Well, that could be covering, you know, a lot of different classes. It could be used to cover some of the management, might be used to cover some of the water and wastewater, but at the same time, some of the air quality, that type of thing. So, yeah. Okay, Leslie, before you go on to graduate criteria, I'm going to have to sign off so I can get to this other meeting. Thank you,
Okay.
everybody.
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Oh, if anybody's got any questions for me specifically, just shoot me an email.
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
Yep. Thanks, Tim.
You're welcome. Bye.
Are there any questions that you would want, other questions right now? I can relay to Tim, or you can try to answer here. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say, Leslie, was that Tim and I were both, as co-vice chairs,
Right.
Partners in crime. I know a lot of what we got here today is focusing on these self-study reviews, and this is essentially a desk audit. And in the days before this very well-developed checklist, it could be a little bit more of an arduous task for the self-study reviewers, but this really does line out exactly what you need to be looking at, and goes, lockstep with the self-study report itself. I mean, just as you read through it, you're going to encounter each of these different elements. And I think as far as what Tim said, it's very critical. If you can't draw a line, through the evidence that's provided in the self-study, go ahead and call it out. And it may be that it's in there and it just wasn't that easy to discover, but it makes for a much better visit during the site visit. Now, for a practitioner's perspective, especially on the site visit side of the house, so much information is going to be gleaned from the various meetings and interviews, especially when, it comes to a chance to interview the faculty or interview external advisory committee and external advisory council members. A lot of times these are the same folks who are employing the graduates or providing internship opportunities to the graduates, and they can give some very critical feedback into potential areas of weakness or areas or opportunities for improvement for these programs. So that's a golden opportunity to the site visitors to look ahead at those protocols, think about the meetings and the interviews you're going to have, and your questions can reflect some of the things that were identified during the self-study review, but also should reflect your own deeper interest in seeing just what kind of impact these programs are having on the workforce around them. And of course, an opportunity for review the portfolios of the internship experiences, again, tells a whole lot. And then the opportunity to sit and interview the students, both current and former. They tend to be very candid in offering the things that they wish they had more access to, or identifying the things that they felt like maybe didn't have them 100% prepared when they left. Again, this is an undergraduate program, and we don't expect them to have master's prepared folks when they leave. But just give that some consideration as you prepare for your site visit, because I found that to be very, very helpful for me. And I'll be glad to answer any other questions around the undergraduate criteria before moving on with Kai's portion.
Jason, I really appreciate those words, and this is pretty heavily oriented toward the criteria, and the practice part of the whole thing is extremely important as well. I mean, that's what we're preparing people to do, is to enter the field of environmental health, and so that's all those points are really great. Mari asked if never mind. It was directly to me. So any other questions? Okay, so Kai, graduate criteria.
Yeah, so I think, a lot of the pointers that Tim and Jason had for us for undergrad, a lot of those do apply to graduate as well. The main difference with graduate is obviously it's a lot less prescriptive. So we're not looking at, as many specific course counts. It's really a lot of this is very much driven by the sort of goals that the program wants to set, and those goals can be very different from graduate program to graduate program. There's a lot more flexibility here. I have to keep reminding myself, because we've been working so much on the new criteria and the new guidelines, that we are still using the old guidelines. And so I'm going to do my best to try not wander into the new guidelines, which will be a higher level of detail based on competencies. But so jumping into this current guidance that we're using, you really want to just look at, does this make sense? I mean, that's what we're getting at with number 2 here, is the sequence Is it structured? Does it make sense, especially for the new programs that haven't been evaluated before? And some of them are brand new, not just for accreditation, but I think we're going to end up with some programs that are new. I think like Pittsburgh, right? So anything that's completely new, maybe they're only 3/4 of the way through thinking through really how should this be put together. So just kind of have a keen eye on that. Is this completely thought out? Does it make sense? Is stuff sequenced correctly? And you're really looking at these broad categories in number 3 here, and in number 4. So just kind of looking broadly at these things, and then the specific things again, you know, just you're looking across a lot of different things, and then of course the culminating experience. We want to make sure, and I have to be careful here because we've kind of been more specific on this in the new guidelines, but for these guidelines, just being sure that it exists, that it's of sufficient duration, and that the product that's being produced at the end of it is really professional quality. I think that's really, really key because it gets really easy to get away with something akin to a book report, and that's not what we're talking about here. So, the culminating product must really be a graduate product. So, and I wish Tanya were here with all her experience doing grad stuff. But Leslie, do you have anything else to add on this slide?
I mean, I think you're right. The undergraduate guidelines are much less prescriptive, and that's being addressed in the revisions. But I think right now you've covered it pretty well as far, and yeah.
Great. Yeah, I'm super excited about the new guidelines, but we're not using them
Yeah.
right now. So sorry.
I have a
Okay,
question.
go ahead.
Anya.
So I more familiar with the undergrads in that sense. And there's, I've had lessons learned and pitfalls and things like that. Can some of you, do you have any experience where things, weren't right? Like the program was too broad, too general, too public health-ish. Or, given the lack of prescriptivity, which is of course a good thing, what are some pitfalls, some things that have happened before that you can give us example where like, okay, that was not enough, that kind of thing? If you have anything like that, it would be helpful. If not, not.
Yeah, let's see if we can find some examples. Go ahead, Leslie. Did you have one in mind?
No, I since I've been here, we haven't run across that issue with the graduate program, Rania. So I don't have examples from mine. Tanya may have something, with her more historical knowledge. But we haven't experienced that since I've been here.
Well, that's encouraging. That's encouraging. Okay, in that sense.
I do think as we start getting into these programs that are co-accredited with CEIF, that we're going to see more of that. We're going to see people trying to mold their programs towards CEIF, and that could mold them away from some of the nuts and bolts that we need them to have to truly be environmental health. So as we've been thinking through the new graduate guidelines, that's been a key thing we've been thinking about is we know what CEIF is asking for. And, in certain cases, that's not enough for accreditation with us, right?
Yeah,
So I'd say keep an eye out for that. If there's programs making justifications that, well, we did such and such for CEIF, great, that's fine. But if it doesn't specifically meet the intent of what we're asking for, then it's not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that'll apply probably more to the newly accredited programs than the ones that are already existing, because the ones our existing programs have, with the exception of Baylor and Western Kentucky have been around for a while.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's go on to the next slide.
And this is a list of the technical areas mentioned up here.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, this is the same as undergraduate. Having to have the right number of technical areas, and like Tim mentioned, some programs are going to be stronger in certain areas than others, and in fact, in master's programs, we expect that they could be quite a bit more specialized than an undergrad program. So we're going to be looking at some that are going to be really directed that way, and I think if we add more programs, or when we add more programs that are graduate programs, I think we're going to see more and more of this, some more specialized. So making sure that there are some broad areas, a couple of different ones, but recognizing that they may be very specifically geared towards a certain topic. Okay, next slide. Okay, so, and again, my head is still in the new guidance. So, this is maybe a little less prescriptive than what you're doing for undergrad. Looking at these requirements, are they there? And so, and again, I haven't applied the old graduate guidelines in the field to an actual site review. So, it's going to be a first for me as well. So there's going to be a little learning together here. And if you do have questions, make sure, you send them to me. And if I have to confer with Tanya, I will, but it's probably best for me to field them first, just since it's hard to get bandwidth right now with Tanya on these questions. But I mean, present, absent, that's pretty self-explanatory. Page numbers again are really helpful. Anything else, Leslie?
Nope.
Okay, next slide. Okay, so trying to match up the courses, by name and number to these various competencies here. So this is actually fairly straightforward. You're going to probably have multiple courses for some of these topic areas. And, in the comments, it would be nice to see sort of, if you're doing more than one class, what fraction of that class is satisfying the competency for each. That would be really helpful to know. And, or if it's not, I mean, if they try to say that these two classes fulfill this, but especially in the areas like statistical analysis, they could be saying that it's taken care of in a couple different classes, when in fact, there's probably not adequate evidence of that. So yeah, if your comments can include, an estimate of sort of how much, what percentage is coming from each of the classes, if there's more than one class for a specific competency. Next slide.
I think that's
And
it.
yeah, questions. So yeah, we really need, I'll be running interference for Tanya, and trying to field questions as best I can with her help. Graduate's pretty straightforward, so it's really incumbent on graduate reviewers to write a lot of good comments, because it is so open-ended right now. So if you have a gut feeling about something, don't be afraid to write it down and be really critical and be really specific. Rania, you have a question?
Yeah, my question is about, like, a couple of slides ago, the biological and chemistry sciences part. Yeah, this slide, right? So skills and knowledge of natural sciences, including biological, chemistry, and other, we know what that looks like for the undergrad, how, yeah, what do we call this? Enough.
For this year, it's going to be pretty open-ended and pretty forgiving. I think, once we're using the new criteria, it's going to be different. But for this year, I think we have to be pretty flexible. Leslie, do you have any
I think that's
comments
kind of
about
based
that?
around, the undergraduate requirements around biology, chemistry, and then, the other sciences. We stress physics and the organic chemistry and that kind of stuff. So I think making sure that there's just the basics are prerequisites for or taken during the graduate program is what they're looking at.
But maybe not to the same degree, not to the same.
It's not prescriptive, so
Right.
yeah,
Kind of, sort
it's a
of.
judgment call, I suppose. To make sure that they have the basis, what you feel like is the foundation they need for adequately going into the field.
Okay, thank you.
Wendell, did you have a comment? I saw your mic.
Negative. I just joined in.
Okay, thanks for joining, sir.
I have a question, Kai. So, MPH programs and MS programs tend to be a little different. The MS easily meets all of these science requirements.
Yeah.
Sometimes the MPH, I know that in some places they waive some of the biological sciences if the students have that as a major in an undergrad. Is all right. And, students who might come from social work who want to get an MPH have to take those biology courses.
Right.
They'll address that in their self-study, but is that acceptable, or do they have to have this graduate level biology?
No, my understanding is if it can be demonstrated that the prereqs are rigorous enough, then that's okay, as long as they're going to then take some follow-on classes at the graduate level that are going to be applying biological and natural sciences.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I think that's fair. I was just, just curious about that.
But that's something to definitely look at with some scrutiny, because you will have these CEF accredited MPHs that will try to be very squishy and policy focused, and we have to be really careful that the student, especially those students coming in from non-science majors with undergrad non-science majors, that they have the skills and knowledge.
I agree. I think that's what I would be worried about a little bit. MPH majors, from what I know, sometimes they don't have these hard sciences and they accept, someone who majored in English or something, or communication. So, I think that's going to be difficult because CEF doesn't require any.
I know.
Like that.
Yeah, and that's going to be a hard sell, because we're going to have. Yeah, that's how CEF is cashing checks, because they creating all these programs that have so few prereqs. So, yeah, so I think we need to look at that with a critical eye. And also, one other thing I wanted to mention is that number 8, risk assessment framework. That is essentially, number 8 is what is driving the rewrite of the entire graduate guidelines moving forward. So if everyone can really look critically at, are they thinking throughout the entire program in that framework of risk assessment? I mean, we can't require that for this year, but that's where we've gone in the new guidelines. So if you can just kind of look at that, if they're taking any classes that just don't address risk assessment, risk management, risk communication at all, in the syllabi, that's something to flag for sure. Jason.
Yeah, thanks, Kai. It just kind of raises the point, the previous discussion around maybe folks who are coming into these MPH programs, if they didn't have the hard sciences as an undergrad, again, I can think of an example a couple years back, and it was a program that was just getting its accreditation. It had an undergraduate program, and in interviewing one of the current students, I was able to, I found out that they didn't. It wasn't like a 4+1 type situation where they were staying in after already having the undergrad experience. And they, helped assuage my concern by saying just how rigorous, how difficult it was to engage in this master's program without having had that underpinning, right? So the program can let these people in, that's their prerogative, but they do, it's our goal, and the thing that we're wanting to look at is this a master's level program that meets EHAC requirements? And that's, was demonstrated to me in that instance, just in interviewing the student, and I had a much better feel that they were making them apply that knowledge, whether they showed up there with it or not.
Okay, I'm looking. Thanks a lot, Jason. I think that's a really good point. The other thing I would say too is that if we have biology majors or chemistry majors coming in, it's not unreasonable at all for these programs to require some sort of 300 level undergrad fundamentals of public health as an entrance requirement. And that's something that I think is generally encouraged, because if you're coming in with no public health framework at all, that's kind of the flip side of what we were just talking about, right? If you were coming in with a hard science degree where you never even heard of public health for 4 years, it's not a bad thing if they require, prereqs. Just an orientation prereq of some sort is desirable. And again, there's a lot of things that aren't written down here that I'm telling you. And it is kind of more vague in the graduate realm. Just, use your best judgment and make a lot of comments. And I saw there was a chat comment from Mari. Can you read it to me, Leslie?
Hang on.
I can open it here.
I'm not seeing that.
Oh, maybe it was a DM. Let me look here.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it was
I can
okay.
read it.
Oh, thank you. I wasn't sure if you had your phone. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was looking at those requirements with interest, as it looks like we could structure an option within our current MS in environmental science that met these requirements. It wouldn't be called a master's in environmental health, because that would require Board of Regents approval.
Right.
But I'm wondering, is that title necessary or just meeting the requirements necessary?
Leslie?
Yeah, I don't think that's a requirement right now of
No.
like, I mean, you like for undergraduate program, it can be called the state sustainability or, whatever. So I don't think it's necessarily a requirement here and with the graduate criteria either.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding with the current criteria is that's fine. My understanding with the revised guidelines is that's fine too. I mean, I think our intent would be, or our request would be, that you have a track, you could call it an MS in environmental science with an emphasis in environmental public health.
Right.
Right.
That would be the idea.
And that would save you the trouble of having to deal with the regent's approval.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's any prohibition on that at all in the new guidelines either. I mean, we've written it such that if you can demonstrate that you're meeting the competencies, then you can call it whatever you want. I mean,
exactly.
case in point, Colorado State just after 50 years just ditched environmental health as a major and changed it to something else. So
right.
They're still providing the same degree, but they wanted to call it, something with 10 more words. So I don't think there's a problem with that. I think there's kind of a semantics thing going on with naming of degrees right now, and to satisfy various deans and whatever. So I think we're just going to have to roll with that.
Great, thanks. That's all I needed. Thanks, Kyle.
Cool. Thanks. So, you kind of want to separate from the semantics, are they really being earnest about offering what they're supposed to be offering? Let's see, we got a question.
It's a comment
from-
from Welford. So he
Okay.
says, if there are no specific courses in biological sciences and chemistry, I would look closely at what they are doing with toxicology and risk assessment, which requires some focus on biology. Some aspects of risk management may touch a bit on chemistry.
Yeah, excellent point. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, and look, dig into those syllabi and make sure that tox and risk are talking about biological and chemical sciences. Don't same for, don't, make sure that if they have any sort of IH class, that they actually are grounded in physics and they're not just teaching abstract principles that have nothing to do with the basic sciences. But you really want to check that it's not possible for a student to satisfy the graduate toxicology requirement without a really good foundation in biological sciences and chemistry. Any other questions?
Great. All right. Thanks. I just wanted to thank you, Kai, and thanks for everybody's questions and participation. I just wanted to show you, this is the, if you click on the member section of the website, this is where you go after you log in. So I just wanted to show you how it's laid out here. So we have all the self-studies and the site visit reports will be here. So right now the self-studies are uploaded under each university, ABC, and goes through the list. And again, these self-study reviews and checklists will be uploaded once they're done. I do have a link to the 2007, so their last reaccreditations or accreditations if they are reaccrediting. So you can see the last self-study if you need historic documentation. And then if you eventually, when you scroll down all the way down here, you have all of these documents that I referred to in the PowerPoint. So you have all the self-study review resources that you need, and for undergraduate and graduate, and then there's a site visit report, protocol reporting that we talked about, the introduction process letter that I've sent out, the scheduling letter that I've sent out to the site visit leads. There's the agendas that are detailed for the site visits, and then the report templates and examples. And again, and that same self-study review example is here. And then yeah, so like I said, like all those documents, they're linked in the PowerPoint or they're found here. And then later on, all of this will be updated with information for the meeting in Pittsburgh. So it's just an explanation of how that's laid out there. Does anybody have any other questions? That's it for what I have. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. If you do have questions, you come up with questions as you're doing your self-studies and preparing for the site visits, please feel free to ask me, ask Kai, Jason, or Tim. We will definitely get you an answer. The site visit leads will be communicating with their team members and the project or program directors to set up site visits for the winter and spring. And if you get your self-study reviews and reports into me, or checklist and reviews into me by December 31st, that would be fantastic. And I'll of course be sending reminders. So thanks everybody. And I guess that's it.
Hey, Leslie, can you hang on a minute?
I can.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, Kai, and everybody else, Jason.
Yes, thanks. Thanks, guys. Talk soon.